Hello, and welcome back to the Geek on My Sleeve channel. This is Geek Out number 86 over Berserker Apocom Apocosmos Book 1 by Dimitrios Gkirgkiris. Sorry if I butchered the name there. Yeah, it is considered a urban lit RPG, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just heads up, still having some technical difficulties on the other side, but we'll uh we'll see what we can do here. Um, so all in all, thoroughly enjoyed the book. I really like the concept of both of the worlds being parallel, where they both exist, and then being able to be pulled into the other one. There's a lot of potential for or bringing in more and other elements, and the fact that this is only the upper cosmos and that other realms or other worlds intersect at the same time, which, yeah, is very exciting stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right. First off, that background you have is really slick, and I'm always jealous of how clean you can get your green screen to hold up and everything. Maybe it's just that super slick hair and the way you get the headband set up because
I was
I
gonna
always have
say,
the fuzz halo around mine. Um, but yeah, this was our first impression for the author. Um, Brand new take on it, and it was a nice change of pace from like traditional lit RPGs, right? A lot of
yeah.
times, I think I shared it in the Discord once upon a time where it was maybe it was like the Scroll of Truth meme or something where it was talking about
Oh,
lit
yeah. I
RPG.
finally found it after several years of searching, and it's like lit RPGs are just fantasy books with an extra step. He throws
Of
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of like portaling or whatever. And in a way, this was a portal, but it wasn't a portal. It was more of like, hey, let me reveal what's going on behind the curtains. Guess what? Everything about your world, everything you know, it is all because of this wider universe. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. It's
And
like, you
another
mean everything is
thing
based off games? It's like, no. I mean, everything you know and love about games is based off this universe.
based off reality. Just another
What?
reality. Yeah.
What?
And I'd have to say my absolute favorite thing about this book was all the nerdy references.
I was about to say, like, when I listened to it, this one of the first times I got to a lit RPG before you.
Yep.
And I was listening through it and I was just chuckling and chuckling. I'm like, oh man, is Peter going to catch this Easter egg? Of course he is. What? I just revealed the fact that, here is this tablet that you can like access like this huge, amazing multiverse, et cetera, et cetera. And you want to watch Linus Tech Tips? Like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. You know who else likes them tech tips? Yep. Yep.
This is very well done stuff.
Yeah.
I also, enjoy the "What does your system of down" shirt give some. I forget actually exactly what it was, but yeah, it doesn't have any stats on it, so he gets him the
Hmm.
armor.
Yeah. Karen, appreciate you hanging out with us. I thought the guy was way too accepting about the whole existence of the other world. Yeah, I could
I
see
don't
that. He
know.
he did just
He
get his face
accepted
stomped
it,
though.
but he also didn't really accept it because he wanted to lay low and just use it for his own gain. Um, yeah, to essentially yeah, just make his money. And it's interesting to see the progression where he's like, oh, I don't need any money. I just need, a little bit to get by, rent and food and blah. But then
The
as it
medical
goes on,
bills.
it's all about, you know, hey, I've started this journey. I'm gonna take over everything. And
I
another, oh,
real quick. One of the things I enjoyed about the book was just like how kind of like real it felt in some ways and relatable. And as a guy who just went through a medical procedure, Pete, when those medical bills hit him, did that ring home a bit with just reality of just like
not
here he
directly
got
for
stomped.
the medical stuff, but just like insurance being a joke. You
Yeah,
pay monthly, and it's a big old what if.
yeah,
It's great when it works out, but they're designed to win and make money, and it's illegal for you not to. So you just
hmm
get to lose. Um, yeah, yeah.
And another thing that I can appreciate and respect from the author is the main character kind of like had his own challenges and demons going in, right? We don't necessarily get it spelled out right away, but pretty much we know that something devastating happened to his woman several years back, um, and like so many of these characters are just like hunky dory, happy go lucky, and it's like no, this guy's like battling with his own depression, and his dog is the focus of his life, gets him out into the world. Hey,
Yep.
we appreciate you stopping by. Author himself, apologize. We always butcher your name, Demetrius. Hey peeps, glad you enjoyed the book and the Easter eggs. It's 1 a.m. where I am at right now, so we'll watch the video tomorrow. Thank you very much for your kind words. Really appreciate you. Well, we appreciate you, sir, and this very fun book, and you stopping by as late as it is where you are. So thank you, thank you. And shameless plug. Um, you want to chat more with the man himself, he hangs out in our Discord server. So links below. Um, yeah. Sorry, where were we, Pete?
Gushing about the book. Um, mm, 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 mm. Oh well, I'm
Yeah,
gonna go off on a side tangent. So
of course.
my now that I have to critique one negative at least about each of them. I've got two for this one. A, not enough combat, especially with a title like that. But he did it in an interesting way with how we got introduced to the character in a later scene, and then it was kind of like him sitting around the fire telling his origin story. Um,
I was about to say, you
and
know it's
then there
coming.
was,
You
yeah,
know
yeah,
the action's coming.
it was a good way to do an origin story and introduce us with the knowing that there's going to be so much more. And then that final fight scene was glorious.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
that was a tasty nugget of a fight scene.
So yeah, I was about to say, like, of the few TV series I've actually watched, Spartacus is one of them. So when we get like the whole gladiator arena feel with the Doctores, and see all the potential of all the different races and all the different pieces, even though Peter has said it before, he's not a big fan of like, hey, here's this incredible, epic awesomeness to catch your attention. But let me tell you a story about how I got here. And we go back in time.
Hey, it did a lot better than most because most of them it will build up a scene and then it will be like how I got here, which he kind of did, but you understood it was him filling in his backstory as well
Mm-hmm.
as it read very much like oh, what's the book? Hyperion,
Mm-hmm.
where they're on a journey and you get, for that one, you get several different viewpoints and then they come back into reality or their current time and they continue on with other stuff. And then it bounces back out to, oh, it's now your backstory.
One
And
one of my issues with those type of tropes is when you see people at the end, you're like, oh well, now now I know that when they're in danger, they're going to make it because we're already later in the timeline. Here, he
I,
does enough where it's like tells you a bit of his sad story, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what what about the corgi? I mean, like, what about our dwarf? What about our half elf? Like, we don't know what's happened to them. We just know that we have a BA berserker in his 40s, which other
or
mad
level
props.
40. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's a middle-aged man, which I can also give props to as far as like character casting and everything. Especially now that Peter and I are poking fun at who has more gray hair than the other one, to have a character that's not just some young buck who found a dragon egg going out on another quest with, nothing but sunshine and rainbows. Um, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Keep going.
So my second negative is the corgi on the cover. Louis is not wearing his wizard hat.
Yeah.
I halfway got done editing or photoshopping a hat onto him, but I got distracted, didn't finish. But the cover is beautiful. I love how like the sword is going in between the letters at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt a
You
little
you got it on
misleading,
hand? Why don't you pull it up for
or
those
kind
watching?
of.
Okay. Oh,
Sorry, was bounced back and forth.
you're
Anyway,
good.
so the top sword, the way it's like see-through behind the Apocosmos, and then it's like above and behind the S, and then behind the book.
Mm-hmm.
That was just beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the rest of it and him being decked out. And then yeah, our corgi doesn't get his hat.
Yeah. Yeah. Next iteration. Wish list. We want to see our corgi wizard's hat.
He's
Um,
already got three out, and he's on the cover of each of them, but he still doesn't have his hat. But that's okay.
maybe next one. It's been a minute since I've checked. The Audible just came out, but I'm not sure if we know ETA of the other guys just yet, when they'll be coming to Audible. Um, yeah. So back to the story. For those, now that we're, about 20 minutes into the party, if they haven't read it
Oh,
yet,
yeah.
now that we've gotten through it, I'll give you a moment to think about it because, knowing us, we like to jump right into it and always forget to do this. Now Peter's going to
Hey.
tell us how he wants to
So
redo that.
if yeah, wow, I mentally said it. You just didn't hear it. If you have not read the book, I think the title of Urban Lit RPG stands very true. It, the So the majority of the book is essentially manipulating markets or similar to like stocks and bonds for our main guy, except for its arrows. Um,
More like
and
manipulating the World of Warcraft auction house, but
or
continue.
yeah, auction house and such. And so for me, that wasn't a huge draw, but it
It's totally what I do getting pulled in. I'd be like, how can I manipulate some markets here?
but it builds up to so much more, as well as our main character. You can definitely see the development into the berserker status. um yeah, so there we kind of touched on a lot of it. It's got a lot of that, like you get to see him later, and then you get to hear his origin. It has very unique elements for bringing the pet over and then essentially making him sentient.
I love that feature.
Which
Like, how many pet owners wouldn't, well, would or wouldn't? Maybe we think we would want it, but then, to hear bacon constantly. Um,
I enjoyed the bacon.
I enjoy bacon too. Sorry,
Yeah.
continue. I'm going to interrupt you about 12 more times, but I believe in you and
Or well,
persevering.
I'm having a hard time backtracking and keeping a spoiler free or like a why you should read kind of thing. Um, as we already talked about a lot of the good points. Mm,
Yeah, as Peter said earlier, if it's not 90% combat, it's not enough combat for him. Though we do get a wide variety of combat. We get the welcome to the multiverse battle where he manages to down 3 of them before they pull
break
out their
out there.
Rasengan.
Yeah, Rasengan, not
Like
Rasengan.
I busted out laughing right there. I'm like, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
And then I just see, this Viking Skrillex looking haircut guy running around with his arms behind his back, in true Naruto style. But yeah, so we had our bit of the curb stomp there. We got a little bit of some training with his buddy as he basically dropped, what was it, something like $500,000, nearly $1 million for the scroll,
Yeah,
to
to
make his
do the quest
companion
line.
sentient or
Mhm.
whatever. So we got to see a little bit of that. So like it teases at the potential of more to see there. We get a dungeon crawl with our dwarf and our half elf and our corgi.
Oh, and yeah, and it's a urban dungeon crawl where it
Mm-hmm.
does funky time, pocket, dimension, space stuff. Essentially, it is a single story, but by running in the front door all the way to the end of it, you go through a wall and you start back over and you do it again, but it's actually a different floor. So it's kind of like steps suck, so instead of going up steps, you go through a wall and it's a new floor. Um,
That's
yeah,
what I'm talking about.
it was a very unique thing, which just leads to so many of the other elements that we didn't get to see. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember the dwarf's name, but how essentially he lives in a one or a studio that's not even a studio, it's just kind of a room, but then he has a bunch of keys, and I got a chuckle out of the privy or the item descriptor for his
Right.
key to a other dimensional bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
as well as he's got his workshop in one. And we got to do the first quest with Louis through one, and yeah.
Yes. 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 Um, and then of course that epic final battle scene was a lot of fun in the arena where he's like, all I see is red. I'll take on all of them. Come on, let's
Yeah.
go.
Well,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's a lot there too because the dwarf or one of our, forward sections, he's like, no, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna listen to this guy's story. It's not just because he's a berserker, but you need to know why I trust him. And then as we
Mm-hmm.
continue, we learn essentially the dwarven customs to give 3 gifts. Um,
Mm-hmm.
how to accept knowledge and how to ask a question. And
Mm-hmm.
then I forget the third thing. Ah, it's gonna
No,
bug me.
it was a gift, ask and receive. Um,
And then give information.
mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So
But yeah, so we get to see a little bit of the Dwarven customs, and we get a snippet for the future and the forward, as well as we get a snippet of the Dwarven's back or the dwarf's backstory and a snippet of Leonardo's backstory. Um,
so just like without ruining it, it looks like book 3 will get that deeper dive into the dwarf backstory, just going off the cover and the title. But
Well, yeah, there's a lot of potential with where we're at right now because after we take out the urban dungeon and we get the dragon egg, just kidding, it's not a dragon egg. It is a, full-fledged sentient dragon who has been trapped inside the orb.
that was pretty cool. And
And
there's got to be some potential there.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Like he plays it off, or he acts as if we're not gonna, unlock our flying mount and get an epic dragon. But if you slide that in there, I would not be disappointed. But we get to have an extra source of lore because the dwarf has his own customs and kind of like when they're trying to explain the urban dungeon situation and he's just like, well, I was trying to explain it, but you're too daft to understand. And it's just like, you need to know the perspective of where you're coming from. And that's where Leonardo ends up explaining it. It's an instant dungeon, more or less. And then to have a dragon that's literally just knowledge. And he very much hints at that Alex.
Mm-hmm. Main
Alexander
character.
Rage is very
Yeah.
interested in the dragon and speaking with him, and it's just going to be a fount of knowledge as well as I hope we're able to. Oh, what's the phrase I'm thinking of? The enemy of my enemy is my friend or is my ally.
Mm-hmm.
With Rory Battleforge.
Yeah. Look at you, dude.
Um, and the new
Somebody had their extra
dragon,
cup of
not a
coffee.
dragon. I finally got in my things of Monster 2A shipping, turned into 2 week shipping.
Coca-Cola. Peter's still waiting on that sponsorship. He's already willing to drink one every stream, but if you want to pick up that for us, yes, he will sing your praises. So yeah, I wanted to read a quick excerpt from the very end of the first chapter where you're like, this might be good, because you have all these people talking about a rebellion early on, like, oh, we're finally getting geared up. There's never been, more of us, et cetera, et cetera. And they're all like, hey, what about this middle-aged berserker guy over here? And this is how you introduce yourself, kids, right? Whenever anybody's talking to you or talking about you, and they're like, who's that guy? Who's he? You just look him in the eye and you say, my name is Alexander Rage, he replied. Or at least that's the name I go by. Berserker, Dragon's Bane, Battle Forged, Traitor. I come from what some of you call the Prime Plane, or Midgar, or D. And this is the story of how I came to this hellhole willingly. And then you make friends.
Yeah. He seems to do that a lot. He's he typically, either minds his own business or when confronted just flexes on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I also
I was about to say, like, isn't that how you do it too? Like when people start causing problems, you're just like, flex.
do you know who I am?
Do you know my name is Alexander Rage, Berserker, Dragon's Bane, Battle Forged.
I guess all in all, that was an element that I enjoy because it's typically one of two ways for lit RPGs where it's either like, oh, I do video games to escape my normal life, so I've already got a different name. Or it is, I'm going to use my actual name because I can't keep track of 8 people or one person having 8 different names. But for this one, it was a developmental thing where, he's more or less putting his previous life aside and had to do it so that people couldn't relate, events back to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, with a cute corgi sidekick.
Yep. Yep. Always need to have the cute sidekick. And what was his name?
Or Louis.
Louis Thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah. We almost got Louis Bacon.
Yep.
Not quite though. Not quite. Yeah. And then gosh, like that ending, that cliffhanger.
Yeah, there is a lot of potential. So essentially the first third we're figuring out the Apocosmos. We're starting our trading portfolio, and then we get into like the middle section, and we've had our second scare where we essentially, because of what we had with Rory Battleforge, when he reaches out to him and he pretty much is like, oh, hey, I'll see you at your place. And he's like, no, why would I do that? And then it's like, oh,
you
I
don't
left
invite
everything at
strangers over.
default.
Yeah. And then he starts giving himself a hard time. He's like, gosh, what am I, a noob at this? Not checking my default settings, which helps explain how the big bad demon guys who he's trying to challenge in the marketplace find his home address.
And that's what I was getting to. There's causal connections without spelling everything out for you. As well as, the corgi, Louis, keeping him grounded. And he's like, oh, hey, aren't dwarfs supposed to be this and that? And as we know, we can't make assumptions about the Epicosmos. But then it comes down to like, well, you should probably clean up.
Causal connection, life lesson. If you want to look like a Viking god or a Greek god, work out 6 days a week and take your corgi for runs.
Yep.
So Anna wants to know, what are your aliases?
I've gone through several iterations, and this is probably one of my weaknesses because I always make it like blatantly what it is.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't played a whole lot recently, but for example,
Dots
back in
or
my
Healbot.
WildStar days,
back in my day,
there's what you call trash mobs, or essentially it's not tab targeting, it's projected or don't stand in the red stuff. But anyway, so you call them a trash mob
I like
because
how
a
you
bunch of
kept that
people all
PG for the
stacking.
kids.
And so the healer's name was Trash Heals because, it's a close range healer who's in the middle of the trash mob. And yeah, so Trash Heals. But in other circles, I typically go by Broken just because I enjoy fixing things. And 95% of the time, you got to open it up. You got to break it. You got to see what's inside to be able to put it back together.
Yep. So another kind of interesting question is our half-elf friend,
Leonardo.
Leonardo, thank you. Just drew a blank there. He comes from a half Italian, half elf family. Sorry, full elf, but he's half elf because mama's an elf. Dad's Italian mafia. So they are known for being amazing fighters. But he became a caster, and he went through and explained kind of how that process goes. It's basically like how you live your life up to a certain point, and then your class is decided. So even though he was always trying to, join the family fun and the martial combat, et cetera, he ended up spending more of his time reading, so on and so forth. And then by his like coming of age or whatever, he ended up being a caster where he comes from a family of fighters, and then they diverge from that point or whatever. Granted, we are audiobook snobs now, but later in life, thinking back to youth, where in that spectrum do you think you would fall as far as like your classes or whatnot?
I'd have to see more of the world because I don't think I would fit into the mystic, the buffer, the berserker.
Yeah.
Though I guess it pretty much opens it to where, anything is possible.
Thinking back to how agile you were, and there was no such thing as a flat wall or surface that you couldn't climb. I think you would end up as some sort of agility based
I kind of like the
stats.
idea of the blade dancer. I wish I got to see more of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes some sense.
I wasn't quite the climber you were, so I'm not sure I'd end up as a blade dancer or an agility individual. Definitely didn't read enough as a youth, so I don't think I'd end up as a caster per se. I don't know. What do you think? Would I end up being the fighter, the guy in the front, knocking stuff over, causing problems?
You definitely regularly get to the gym more so than I do, so I could see something fighter oriented, as well as you
one
are
is more
a
than zero.
Taurus, and
This is
very
true.
bullheaded. So I don't know if I could go say berserker, but
compliment accepted. Compliment accepted. So now we just need to figure out a couple casters to round out our party, and we can go have some fun in the Apocosmos. So yeah.
no, it's a monster. It's the Pipeline Punch edition.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fruit punch in a monster can. I've been preferring the juice ones just because the carbonation's been messing with me. And I swear they changed their original flavor. But there's so much potential throughout this book. We've got our orb that is a S rank item that buffs us and is giving us knowledge. We have, so the ending too, they end up kidnapping Leonardo, and
he's like the bro of bros too, like putting up with Alex and his very socially inappropriate comments, and just being an outright
trying to set him up to
turkey
succeed
butt.
because he sees that he's tearing himself up over. We assume that Alexander was married and that his wife passed away. And then, Leonardo tries to help him out and sets him up with the streaming setup, which he doesn't end up using, but that's just another.
His corgi ends up getting better numbers than he does when he hooks up his dog with
playing all the games. And I thoroughly enjoyed that too, with the emulators and the
imagine being able to bond with your dog over some old school video games and movies and everything. The fact that he gets some of the references, even picks up some D&D, like heck yeah. Sorry, continue. Our bro gets captured.
It. Oh, yeah. So we thought we were out of the fire so essentially we started off in the arrow market thinking, hey, we can make a little bit of extra money, and then we got greedy and we're scaling up. We get attacked. We think, okay, this is risking, my family and my life. I'm not going to continue just to like it. Berserker fits the character very well. Sidestep, there are several aspects of that where he's just sitting down when he gets pulled into the Apocosmos. He's just sitting down waiting for his food, and then an incident happens, and words are exchanged, and his first reaction is, "Hey, we're past that now." And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, ends up taking out three of them. And then same thing with the whole trading situation or the dark marketplace where he starts off making one thing, thinking, okay, I'm just minding my own business. Someone
Mm-hmm.
tries to flex on him and he instantly flips it on its head, figures stuff out, and flexes right back. And then he gets attacked. He's thinking, okay, it's all over. I'm done. I can't endanger my family. And then next thing we know, we're going through our urban dungeon and we're literally killing people to, have them back off, just to figure out that, the big wig or the head honcho wasn't home at the time, as well as this is probably a small cell. And then, I also appreciated the whole causal connection bit of these are the same guys who attacked him were the ones that brought him into the Apocosmos from the beginning. So that was kind of neat, the back and forth.
Right.
Um, yeah, but the character definitely fills out the Berserker where everything seems mellow until we hit that point. And yeah, as soon as that floodgates open, it's over.
Yeah.
I wish, yeah, I wish we got to see more of Rory Battleforge as well as of Leonardo, but this is book one. Um, yeah, yeah. And of course, Leonardo is kind of hesitant or stopped where he's at because now he wants Alexander Rage to pick up and go through the secondary um, change quest with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Get to see what truly motivates him. Um, and if you're a true pet owner, you too would be motivated to have that like companion bond with the average dog living like 10 to 15 years to live with
Oh
you
yeah,
to the end
the
of your
second
days. Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
second spell scroll that we got hinted at, though I thought it was interesting how the seller of the scroll was the fairy. I can't remember her name, but essentially, yeah, it was being sold by the one. Which I guess that's an element that is not incorporated, but it makes a lot of sense. So typically with lit RPGs, you have questing because it's more MMO or RPG based. But
Mm-hmm.
in this, it's you're able to do and be whatever. There's kind of a slight slight structure for when you hit this level, you can do your next thing. But for the most part, you're free to do whatever you want, to do nothing. The only other thing that's set in stone is after you take your second change quest, you can now lose XP when you die. Kind of follows D&D rules, like if your hit points hit zero, you're unconscious or bleeding out, so to speak. And then you can, have a couple saving throws to stabilize, as well as someone can pick you up from there. And then after you hit that second threshold, you're going to lose XP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, the book itself, at least from what we've read, wasn't a clone of the traditional lit RPG, which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've recommended it to a couple friends, though it's probably not the best gateway book into lit RPG. It can be a bit stats
I need to
heavy.
read further in the series.
Yeah.
What? I didn't think there was enough stats.
Yeah. You always want more stats and more combat.
I mean, we had stats when he was brought over, and then we had stats in his final fight scene. We got a vague buffer.
Yeah.
We got a couple.
I
Yeah, I don't
wasn't
even think we
saying too
got the
much.
stats off of our gear.
I did appreciate a lot of the traditional MMO stuff with gear as well, which was kind of cool, and how they like to tie it into the fact that a lot of video games are based off of the cosmos. So in that regards, the learning curve was easier. Um, it's definitely a lot of fun. Looking forward to the other two coming out on Audible so we can binge it like we want to. It is free on Kindle Unlimited, or not free. It is included in Kindle Unlimited. You want to support the channel, shameless plugs of link below, affiliate links. Help support our Audible addiction. Um, yeah.
Oh, also, I thoroughly enjoyed all of the music references. Um, I had to look them up. Didn't know, or well, I knew. I think one of them there was the Dragon Force song that I knew, but the rest of them I had to look up. And yeah, it's been a while since I've been big into metal, but thoroughly enjoyed them. And it definitely fits the theme and adds an element. I'm tempted to go through and slap together some playlist or whatnot on YouTube and just link it to people who pick up the book. That way you can, when he references a song, I know it would have been a bit much to get the rights and licensings to play the song. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad he didn't. But at the same time, it, yeah, was an interesting element.
Yeah. Karen said the stats are okay in the ebook, but long to listen to in the audiobook. Hence why you should do it at 2 to 3x.
Okay.
um moving into book 2, what do you hope to see more of?
So, book two, we need to save Leonardo. We need to figure out, like, so sorry, that beginning section you read where he's already level 40 and he's given his name. He's got, I think, like all of the taglines because he's Rage from his transformation, he's Battle Forge from our Dwarven companion, and then he's like, oh, he says like betrayer of friends or something, which I assume relates to Leonardo because he, you know, doesn't feel very personable.
Mm-hmm. And also,
Yeah.
we're going to see what happens with him getting kidnapped, right? Like he finally turns on his camera and starts doing stuff on the stream when his buddy gets kidnapped, which that's going to be some hardcore stuff going on because Leonardo is, part of a big, like one of the biggest guilds in the area. Like everybody knows his family. And the fact
Yeah, but
that
then he doesn't tell his family as far as we know. He just picks up Rory
still,
Battleforge.
yeah, still, but like if there's going to be a major power struggle or play, like they're going to vet who they're messing with.
Well, yeah, and I
Um,
guess that's where I felt like, yeah, we did our instant dungeon and we thought we got the big bad guys, but I assume it was just some splinter cell or some small part of the operation, and the higher up or the big wig was just, out dealing with other stuff. As well as I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to hang out with Leonardo's family more, as well as it's okay that our master smith dwarf is a crafter, but
mhm.
I feel like he could be doing more.
Yeah, what did you think about his backstory? So he pretty
It was
much was a
sad.
king,
Or he
and
still is.
he still is a king, but he had his own hall and everything, a whole clan that could rally behind him. But a dragon attacked and he lost his son, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, couple things. A, I could see the kid coming back, um, just because of the elements or the way things work in the game. Uh, he was not level 20, I would assume, so he's not going to lose XP. Yeah, they have so long before they've got to be revived. If the kid is gone, it's a thing and it wouldn't be the end of the world. Um, but the biggest takeaway for me was his animosity towards dragons and the fact that we now have a dragon orb. They're pretty standoffish towards each other, where they're like, if you're asking for secrets to take out my own kin, I'm not going to do it. But I could very easily see an alliance or an understanding common goal to unite them, as well as throughout our forward time hop moments when we're, the guy telling the story. Um, but he's trying to free groups of people. So, since they're in a slave pit, more or less, they're probably not good people. But at the same time, mercenaries are mercenaries. So I feel like that was a big build up to either getting Leonardo back or going to help with because it is a dwarf that vets Alexander Rage, or pretty much says, hey, you need to hear this guy's story to understand why I trust him.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm trying to think if we've done any official like urban lit RPGs, or this is like our first one. Um, it's always nice, really enjoying playing in the genre, getting a new take on it. Can't wait for book 2 and 3 to hit Audible. Though a lot of times we're just waiting on the narrators to work it into their queue. Yeah. Anna asked top life lessons takeaway.
Normally I have more like quotable quotes or life lessons from them. There weren't a whole lot per se from this one. Trying to think of some. Mm. All I can think of is more rage moments or all the puns about it being a doggy dog world and then taking a bite of the hot dog.
For me, it was definitely about
Bacon.
quality of friends over quantity of friends. Alex clearly is fighting his own demons from day one, even before he gets pulled into the cosmos. He clearly said if it wasn't for needing to feed his pup, he wouldn't get out of bed. But he found quality people. He surrounded himself with quality people. Unlikely candidates, a half elf, a dwarf with no stash, and his best friend for life. And they go through some tough moments. And yeah. When in doubt, watch out for an MFer trying to blast you with Rasengan, and grind out that XP, manipulate the auction house, and make sure to check your profile settings before going and pissing off any major crime syndicates.
Man, that's probably like the first thing I do, is I always change all my settings. And it's a
Yeah.
problem because when I try to help other people, I'm like, this thing right here. They're like, it's not there. And I was like, yeah, it's probably a setting I changed.
Back when we actually played games and I'd ask you, hey, what key is this? You're like, I have no idea. I've
Yeah,
remapped everything.
to remap them.
Darn it, Pete.
Yep.
Yeah. So, final thoughts on the book before we start talking about our next one. I know we're pretty excited about that one.
Final thoughts. Yeah, I gonna continue the series. Was thoroughly enjoyable. Was such a tease. There's so much potential going forward. Our main guy is doing the talking. We get to essentially hear to where he's up till I think like level 4 or 5 or something. But the main guy in the end fight is level 40 something. Yeah, we pretty much dealt with our world or our side, the cosmos and the upper cosmos, but then where he's at and, in essentially a slave in the gladiator dome, it's a completely different realm. So loads of potential there. As well as the big baddie who just captured Leonardo is twirling his mustache at us, and our guy does not take that kindly. So, yeah, a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Looking forward to doing it some more. Appreciate Dimitrios hopping in here and saying hey and catching this on the repeat. Looking forward to picking his brain more in the Discord. Definitely go check out the book if you haven't and you consider yourself a LitRPG fan, because it's a fun new take on it.
Yeah.
At least for us, and we're probably 100 plus books in on LitRPG. Are we at 200 plus books yet? We might be approaching like 200.
Well, I guess books, yes. I guess I always categorize them as series, but
Fair enough. Fair enough. Like we just include Dakota Kraut and we got like 25 right there, right?
yeah.
Speaking of Senpai Dakota Kraut, Peter,
Wow.
tell us about our next Geek Out happening this Sunday, July 11th, 5 p.m. Eastern.
This is Axiom. This is in the Divine Dungeon universe, which Divine Dungeon is Dakota Kraut's first series. This takes place before the Divine Dungeon series does, and everybody kept poking at us saying, hey, there's a lot of critical developmental things that go on in this series later that you need to know. If you do not know the author, he is by far my favorite for Easter eggs. Um, I would recommend listening or reading his stuff in publication order. And yeah, so this is essentially the origin story of our Sunshine and Love pillow mage that we run into and who helps Dale in the Divine Dungeon series, along. Yeah, so first book, a it's definitely an origin story. There are several Easter eggs or connecting things to the Divine Dungeon series. I I'm trying to not spoil things. Essentially, this series, I'm only up to 4, but I've got the general gist of it, is a very wise old man.
Wait.
Uh,
You started book 4? I thought we were stopping at 3.
or I said 3.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Continue.
Or I thought I said 3. I meant 3.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a story of a wise old man. Kind of a unique twist flavor because normally you're the prophesied child and then you have the wise mentor. This guy is just a wise mentor the whole time to everybody. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. For
It's a lot of
me, it was
fun.
a little slow on the start, but it is
Yes.
book
Always more
one.
action. Always more action, right?
We do get quite a bit and some cool new moves.
From what we've seen so far, this fills in a lot of the I'm trying to think of the right verbiage here. Like the
World lore.
yeah, yeah. I was about to say, like, I was thinking like back end of the magic system between the overarching series. So like we meet Praetorian and I want to say book 3 of the Divine Dungeon. Timeline wise, this starts before the Divine Dungeon, at least from what we've gathered. It's like been going a long time. I want to say like we got book 7 or book 8 out right now. Dennis Vanderkerken, super active on Discord, been having fun chatting with him and chatting with the other authors in the Mountaindale Press server, Dakota Crowd's publishing company. Super active bunch. We'll make sure to include the link to that in the next Geek Out stream. But I think he's already through like book 11, I believe he said.
Oh yeah, he said he was currently working on 11.
Yeah, so and even like Peter wanted to move on to this series probably about 50 Geek Outs ago, but we're like, no, there's so many other awesome authors we want to pay tribute to. But we wish we did it sooner because like there's been several comments on our other Geek Outs where people are like, oh, if you read the Arturian archives, you would know that this is probably that dungeon or this is probably that piece. And it's like, oh, you know. So I'm really looking forward to getting further into the series and then going back and rewatching some of our other Dakota Crowd streams and be like, oh yeah, that's totally that thing there that we're not going to tell you about now because we're trying to keep this part spoiler free about it. But really, really looking forward to finally getting this started. We just got to do more Geek Outs in a week to get current with all this stuff, but it's going to be a lot of fun. There might be some celebs that pop in on this one. Not sure. Yeah, looking forward to it. And before I forget, check out our buddy Chaz's channel because we're probably going to be hanging out with him Saturday to talk about the Bobaverse Book 3, one of our favorite hard sci-fi series. I think that's the official genre. But yeah. What else I missed, Pete?
That wraps up this one. And then we've got Thursday. This is July 15th. It is going to be 1 p.m. Eastern due to scheduling conflicts. We are going to finish out the Life Reset series, Salvation. I haven't personally read this one yet, but this is kind of our origin. And by that, I mean, I think it was like our second or third Geek Out was book 1.
80 plus Geek Outs later.
We were using, what was it? It was like Google Hangouts or something to
I don't even think that's a thing anymore.
No, it's not.
Didn't they kill that with fire?
This one has a special place in my heart, and this series.
Ever seen that time I got reincarnated as a slime? What if it happened as a goblin?
The series is essentially kind of traditional LitRPG where it's very MMO based, but then it takes it and puts it on steroids. It is very stats heavy as a series. There is a little bit of everything. There is RTS, civilization, town building elements. There is wicked intelligent artificial intelligences that interpret the players' ideas and thoughts and what they want to happen and then implements full systems around it. There is
there's also a lot of ball jokes, a handful of musical numbers.
I will also
some
say
pop
this,
culture
if you
references.
are gonna pick it up, this is one that I would say you almost have to check out the Audible.
Oh, Sound Booth
Sound
Theater.
Booth Theater does an amazing job.
Yes.
The voice actors are vibrant, believable. There is a musical number in it, and they've just gotten better and better.
Hmm.
Yeah, so actually, I can't talk on Life Reset Book 6. I'm going to hand that off to spoiler free for Carl here, but yeah, thoroughly enjoy the series as a whole.
Yeah. So Pete did a great job on covering the whole series as a whole. Um, I enjoyed the conclusion. It is officially the last book. Quick sidestep: I don't approve or sign off on any of the images Peter steals for these thumbnails. So just putting that out there on the record. But it's great. Like if you're following up through the other ones, like the time dilation is so intense. And the character, without doing too much spoilers, gets trapped in the game. And we've talked about it before on this channel, where when we've gone through some of our hardcore gaming binges and been sleep deprived, the muscle memory and the like game abilities and
Yeah, thought
worlds kind of,
process.
yeah, kind of overlap, where all of a sudden you're like, where's my HUD? Or like, why can't I blink through this? Or, like you find yourself just following game logic before you catch yourself in the real world, and you're like, oh wait, I can't do that. And now imagine if the time dilation was at like 30x and your sleep was only micro naps. So like, like when you sleep in game, it's maybe like 30 seconds or something that passes in the real world. So you're sleep deprived and addled and everything. Yet you're the only one that can save literally thousands of people. And you have pretty much corporate America, your lawyer, and like a bunch of doctors monitoring your health and everything, just like the pressure and the strain. And then insert your virtual AI companion that has an obsession with ball jokes, and you got book 6. It's a lot of fun. Glad that we can finally finish out this series for our Geek Outs. White Thatch, one of our very supportive viewers, suggested doing a dedicated Geek Out to kind of like wrap up the whole series. Life Reset is definitely one that I would love to go back and do that for. So, yes, please. Thursday, notice the time. Feel free to hang out with us for lunch, 1 p.m. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for
Yep,
joining us.
that includes the stream. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by, and hope to geek out with you here soon. Bye.
Bye.